This camera shut down on me 3 separate times in one afternoon. Not lagged, not glitched, fully, completely. Hold the power button for 10 seconds, shut down. And by the end of this video, I'm still going to tell you it might be one of the smartest camera purchases you make this year, but only if you buy the right version of it. Because here's the thing nobody at this launch event wanted to say out loud: this camera looks, feels, and behaves almost identically to a camera that already exists from a completely different company. I asked about it directly. The answer I got back was carefully worded, and I'm going to break down exactly what that means for you, whether you should care, and why it might actually work in your favor as a buyer. So stick with me, because by the end of this video you'll know exactly which one of these 3 cameras, yes, 3 is worth your money, which one is a trap for most people, and there's a pricing detail near the end that genuinely changes the math on this whole lineup. If you're new here, I spend an unreasonable amount of my life testing pocket-sized gimbal cameras, the little handheld stabilized cameras that vloggers, creators, and honestly a lot of working filmmakers have started reaching for instead of bulky mirrorless rigs. I've owned, tested, and worn out more of these than I'd like to admit. So when Xtra invited a small group of us out to Hollywood for the reveal of not 1, not 2, but 3 new cameras in their lineup, I cleared my schedule. I wanted hands-on time, real footage, and honest answers. I got 2 out of 3. You'll understand what I mean by that in a minute. But first, let's talk about what this camera actually is, because there's a lot to unpack here. And some of it is genuinely exciting. What I actually tested, let's set the scene. This wasn't a controlled studio demo with perfect lighting and a script to follow. Xtra flew a group of about 30 to 40 creators out, handed us units, and more or less said go shoot something. I managed to convince one of the reps to let me take the Muse 2 Pro off-site for a couple of hours, which honestly felt like a small win, because most launch events keep you tethered to a designated area with perfect lighting conditions designed to make the product look flawless. Instead, I walked straight into downtown Hollywood. Real foot traffic, real tourists, real chaotic lighting bouncing off storefronts. I walked the Walk of Fame, ducked into a few shops to test how it handled mixed indoor lighting, and then took it underground into the metro station specifically to torture test low light performance, because that's usually where these small sensor cameras start falling apart. I wanted footage that actually represents what your day-to-day vlogging or content creation looks like, not a manufacturer's highlight reel. And that distinction matters more than you'd think, because a lot of first-look videos you'll see this week were shot entirely in the controlled event space. Mine wasn't. So, what you're about to hear about is genuinely real-world performance. Lenses, zoom and color science, okay, let's actually talk about what this camera can do, because the hardware here is legitimately impressive on paper. The Muse 2 Pro has a dual lens setup, a 20mm main lens for your standard wide vlogging shots, and a secondary 60mm optical zoom lens built right into the same body. Stack a digital zoom on top of that, and you're looking at up to 12x total zoom range, all from something that fits in your palm. I actually used that zoom to grab a surprisingly tight, clean shot of the Capitol Records building from a good distance away, and I was fully expecting it to look mushy and digital. It didn't. It held detail far better than I expected from a sensor this size. Now let's talk color, because this is where things get genuinely interesting for the more serious shooters in the audience. This camera introduces something brand new to the lineup called XLOG 3, a flat log-style color profile designed to preserve as much information as possible so you have room to grade the footage later instead of baking in contrast and saturation straight out of the camera. Xtra is claiming 17 stops of dynamic range with 10-bit color depth on this profile. Let that number sit for a second. 17 stops. For context, that's the kind of dynamic range figure you'd expect bragging rights over on cinema cameras, costing 5, 6, sometimes 10 times as much as this entire device. Is it slightly overkill for someone just vlogging their lunch? Sure, probably. But the fact that it exists, and the fact that the footage actually held up when I pulled shadow detail out of that dim metro station footage, tells you Xtra is not just chasing spec sheet bragging rights, they're actually delivering usable dynamic range. I didn't get time to test the slightly less aggressive XLOG 2 profile on this particular unit, but based on what I saw, I have no reason to doubt it performs well too. Frame rates in slow motion, here's something I want to be upfront about. Everything I shot during my hands-on window was captured in standard 4K at 24 frames per second. Why? Because I wasn't trying to break the camera in a lab setting, I was trying to simulate what an actual day-in-the-life vlog looks like for 90% of the people watching this video. But I'd be doing you a disservice if I didn't mention the ceiling on this thing, because it's honestly kind of wild. The Muse 2 Pro is rated to shoot 4K video at up to 240 frames per second. That's full resolution, ultra slow motion capability packed into a device this small, which is not something you typically see outside of dedicated cinema cameras or flagship phones running heavily cropped sensor modes. If Xtra sends us a longer-term review unit, and based on how this event went, I have a feeling they will testing that high frame rate mode properly. Alongside cinematic slow motion B-roll is going to be one of the very first things on my list. For now, just know the ceiling is there, and it's a genuinely competitive spec against cameras costing considerably more. Autofocus and tracking subject tracking is one of those features that either makes or breaks a solo shooting vlogging camera. Because if it can't reliably keep you in frame while you walk, talk, and gesture like a normal human being, none of the other specs really matter. My initial impression here is genuinely positive. I walked through crowded sidewalks, ducked between pedestrians, changed distance from the camera multiple times, and it held on to me consistently without any noticeable hunting or drifting. That said, I want to be honest about the limits of a 2-hour test window. I didn't get the chance to push it into the scenarios that actually separate good tracking systems from great ones, things like zooming in tight on a subject and seeing if it holds focus, or deliberately ducking behind a pole or a person and checking how smoothly it reacquires you when you reappear. Those edge cases are exactly where cheaper tracking algorithms fall apart, and I genuinely can't give you a verdict on that yet. But if you're subscribed and watching for the full review later, that's precisely the kind of stress testing I'll be doing. Design and build quality. Let's zoom out and talk physical design, because there's a genuinely clever feature here that I haven't seen executed quite this way on any other pocket-style camera on the market. The flip screen on the Muse 2 series doesn't just tilt up and down like most of these cameras, it can swing to either the left or the right side. If you're left-handed, or if you just tend to switch which hand you're holding the camera in depending on the shot, this is a legitimately useful bit of engineering that solves a real annoyance. Most gimbal cameras assume everyone shoots the same way, and this one doesn't. There is one slightly odd side effect though when the screen is flipped open. It sits a little off-center, either shifted toward the left edge or the right edge of the body, depending on which way you've swung it. Visually, it looks a bit unusual the first time you notice it. Functionally, it genuinely didn't bother me at all once I was actually shooting. It's the kind of thing that'll probably get a comment or two calling it out, but in practical use, it's a non-issue. The DJI elephant in the room, all right. Let's talk about the question I know is sitting in your head right now, because it was sitting in mine the entire time I was holding this thing. Why does the Xtra Muse 2 series look almost identical to DJI's Osmo Pocket lineup? Not similar in concept, I mean the body shape, the flip screen mechanism, the overall software experience. Even the original Xtra Muse, which has been out for a while now, bears an uncanny resemblance to the Pocket 3, right down to how the menus feel when you're navigating them. So naturally, at the event, several of us asked directly, is Xtra essentially a rebranded version of DJI hardware sold specifically for the American market? The official answer we got back was that Xtra operates as a completely independent company, their own design team, their own software, their own engineering decisions, no direct corporate affiliation to disclose. That's the official line, and I want to be fair and report it exactly as it was given to us. But I also want to give you some context that's bigger than just these two cameras look similar, because there's a real reason this is happening right now. DJI has been placed on the US government's covered list, a designation that currently blocks the company from getting new hardware certified for sale in America. That means DJI's own Osmo Pocket 4P literally cannot come through the front door into the US market this year. And in that exact gap, Xtra has stepped in. Independent teardown comparisons and reporting have pointed to the two cameras sharing the same sensor size, the same tracking system, nearly identical internal components, and companion app code that reportedly still contains leftover references to DJI. Nobody has confirmed a formal corporate relationship, and both companies continue to deny one. But it's a total mystery isn't quite the honest framing anymore. There's real public evidence pointing in one clear direction. Whatever the actual arrangement is, the practical result for you as a buyer is the same either way. You're likely getting DJI caliber hardware, sold under a different name, at a friendlier price because of a regulatory window that happens to exist right now. Whether that's a smart opportunity or a red flag is genuinely up to you. Drop your take in the comments. What went wrong now? I could sit here and only tell you the good stuff, but that's not not what you're here for, and it's certainly not what builds trust between us. So let's talk about the rough edges, because there were some. During my few hours with the Muse 2 Pro, the camera fully froze on me 3 separate times, not a minor stutter, a complete lockup that required a hard reset. Holding the power button for a full 10 seconds just to get it responsive again. Now, I want to be fair here. This was explicitly a pre-production unit running early firmware, and it is extremely common for devices at this stage to have kinks that get ironed out before the actual public release. But 3 freezes in a few hours of casual shooting is worth flagging regardless of the excuse. It wasn't just me either. Multiple other creators at the event reported their units overheating during the day, to the point where several people had to physically step into the shade and let their camera cool down for 10 to 15 minutes before they could resume filming. Now, we were shooting in direct, blazing sunlight for hours with the cameras running near continuously. So that's admittedly not the gentlest test environment. Whether this is purely an environmental factor or a genuine thermal management issue that needs a firmware fix before launch, I honestly can't say with confidence yet. But if you're seriously considering this camera, it's a detail you deserve to know before you commit any money to it. Meet the baseline Muse 2 here's where this video takes a turn a lot of you probably weren't expecting. And honestly, it might be the most important section of everything I've told you so far. This launch wasn't just about the Pro model. Xtra actually unveiled the standard Muse 2 alongside it, and depending on what kind of creator you are, this might genuinely be the smarter buy. The Muse 2 drops the dual lens setup and sticks with a single camera at roughly that same 20mm field of view, but it upgrades to a true 2x lossless zoom, meaning unlike the original Muse, which lost noticeable quality the moment you zoomed digitally, this one holds sharp detail thanks to an upgraded sensor. It also gets its own new color profile, XLOG 2, delivering a still impressive 14 stops of dynamic range, along with that same 4K at 240 frames per second slow-motion ceiling and the dual-direction flip screen. Fun bit of trivia from the event, there was only a single unit of the standard Muse 2 available for all 30-plus creators in attendance to share, which tells you something about how tightly Xtra is controlling access to it before launch. For the average person getting into content creation who doesn't need cinema-grade dynamic range or a secondary zoom lens, this is very likely where your money should go instead. Pricing breakdown, let's talk numbers, because I know that's ultimately what decides this for most of you. There's no locked-in final price yet for either camera, but Xtra did give us a working ballpark at the event, somewhere in the $600 range for the Muse 2 Pro, and everything I've seen since lines up with that the company's own teasers point to a price under $700. As for the standard Muse 2, Xtra hasn't broken out separate pricing publicly yet, so take any specific number for that one, mine included, as an educated guess rather than a confirmed figure. What is confirmed is that Xtra is already running an early access reservation program for both cameras ahead of a planned launch later this year, so if you want in early, that program exists right now even without a final sticker price. Even at the top end of that $600 range, this positions the Muse 2 Pro as noticeably more affordable than the Insta360 Luna Ultra, which is its closest real competition on US shelves right now, and that's a meaningful advantage if budget and accessibility matter to you as a creator. The verdict so. After all of that, the freezing, the overheating, the DJI mystery, the genuinely impressive dynamic range, where does this actually leave you? If you're a working creator who needs cinema-grade color flexibility, extended zoom range, and you're willing to accept some pre-launch rough edges in exchange for premium capability, the Muse 2 Pro earns its price tag. But if you're just getting started, or you mainly want a reliable, simple, high-quality pocket camera for everyday vlogging without paying for headroom you'll never actually use, the standard Muse 2 is very likely your smarter purchase. Save the money. Put it toward lighting, audio gear, or an editing subscription instead. That's usually where beginner creators see the bigger improvement anyway. I wasn't able to keep either of these test units. They went straight back to Xtra at the end of the event, but I've already reached out about getting long-term review units in for both the Muse 2 and the Muse 2 Pro, so we can properly stress test the tracking, the frame rates, and see whether that overheating issue was just a hot Hollywood afternoon or something more. If you don't want to miss that full review, and trust me, there are a few more answers I'm chasing down that didn't make it into this video, make sure you're subscribed with notifications on, because I guarantee this is going to spark a conversation once it's live. And if you're new to gimbal-style vlogging altogether and want to actually understand how to use a camera like this properly before you spend your money, I've got a complete beginner's guide to vlogging linked right here on screen. Go watch that next.